You're scrolling through your phone and you see a post about Mother's Day. Everyone's sharing photos with their moms, writing captions about their best friend, their hero, their biggest supporter, heart emojis everywhere, gratitude flowing like wine at a wedding, and you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel that familiar knot in your stomach, that tightness in your chest, that voice whispering, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I feel that way?" So you post something too, something generic and safe. "Happy Mother's Day to the woman who gave me life." You add a photo from 10 years ago when things seemed simpler. And you hope nobody notices that your smile in that photo doesn't quite reach your eyes. Here's what I need you to understand right now. If you can't quite articulate what's wrong, but something has always felt off about your relationship with your mother, you're not broken, you're not ungrateful, you're not damaged. You have what psychologists call a mother wound. And the devastating part, most people who have it don't even recognize it, because the mother wound doesn't always look like the dramatic stories you see in therapy sessions or trauma memoirs. It's not always obvious abuse or abandonment or addiction, though it can be those things. More often, it's subtle. It's the 1,000 small cuts that never quite healed. It's the needs that went unmet so consistently you stopped recognizing you had them. It's the love that always came with conditions you could never quite fulfill. And because it's subtle, because your mother probably wasn't a villain, because she maybe even loved you in the only way she knew how, you've spent your entire life minimizing it, telling yourself it wasn't that bad, that other people had it worse, that you should just be grateful. But that minimization, that's part of the wound too. Today, I'm walking you through the signs that you're carrying a mother wound. Not the obvious ones everyone talks about, but the ones that hide in plain sight. The ones you've been explaining away for years. The ones, especially number 4, that most people completely miss. And fair warning, this might be uncomfortable. You might feel defensive. You might want to close this video. That resistance, that's worth paying attention to, because the only way out is through, and recognition is the first step toward healing. Sign number 1, you apologize for existing. Let's start with something you probably do dozens of times a day without even noticing. You're at a coffee shop and you need to get past someone to reach the cream. "Sorry, excuse me, so sorry." You send an email at work. "Sorry to bother you, but..." You have a need in a relationship. "I'm sorry to ask, but could you possibly..." You apologize for taking up space, for having needs, for existing in ways that might inconvenience anyone. Now, politeness is fine, but this isn't politeness. This is a bone-deep belief that your presence is an imposition, that your needs are burdensome, that you must constantly apologize for being human. This comes from a mother who, either explicitly or implicitly, made you feel like your needs were too much. Maybe she was overwhelmed and you learned to make yourself small to ease her burden. Maybe she was self-centered and you learned that your needs were less important than hers. Maybe she was emotionally unavailable and you learned that expressing needs led to disappointment. Whatever the mechanism, you absorbed the message, you are too much and not enough all at once. Your existence requires justification. Watch yourself today. Count how many times you say sorry when you haven't actually done anything wrong. Count how many times you minimize your needs before expressing them. Count how many times you preface your thoughts with disclaimers that make you smaller. That's not humility, that's a wound speaking. Sign number 2, you can't celebrate your wins. You achieve something significant. You get the promotion, you finish the degree, you accomplish the goal you've been working toward for months or years, and instead of feeling proud, instead of celebrating, instead of that moment of satisfaction you imagined, you feel nothing, or anxiety, or immediately start diminishing it. It's not that big a deal. I just got lucky. Other people have done more impressive things. Yeah, but I could have done it better. Someone tries to celebrate you and you deflect so fast it's like you're dodging bullets. You change the subject. You redirect attention to someone else's achievement. You find the flaw in what you just accomplished. This comes from a mother who couldn't celebrate you. Maybe she competed with you and your success triggered her feelings of inadequacy. Maybe she was so focused on what you hadn't achieved yet that she couldn't acknowledge what you had. Maybe she was emotionally unavailable and couldn't mirror your joy back to you. Whatever the reason, you learned success is dangerous, being celebrated is uncomfortable, pride is something to be ashamed of. So now even your achievements feel empty because you were never taught how to internalize success. You were only taught how to keep striving for approval that never quite came. Sign number 3, you're attracted to emotionally unavailable people. Look at your relationship history. Really look at it. How many times have you fallen for someone who couldn't fully show up for you? Someone who was hot and cold, someone who gave you just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to feel secure. How many times have you found yourself in that painful dynamic where you're constantly trying to earn love that stays just out of reach, where you're analyzing their every text, every gesture, trying to figure out what you did wrong, how you can be better, what would finally make them choose you? And here's the thing, you probably told yourself you were attracted to them for other reasons. They were interesting, mysterious, challenging. You liked the chase. But the truth, they felt like home. Not home in a good way, home in a familiar way. Because that push-pull dynamic, that trying desperately to earn love from someone who's emotionally unavailable, that was your first relationship. That was your relationship with your mother. She was there, but not really there, present, but absent. You learned to read her moods, to anticipate her needs, to shape yourself around her emotional availability. And you learned that love is something you have to work for, strategize for, earn through perfect behavior. So now, as an adult, when someone is actually available, actually consistent, actually showing up for you, it feels wrong, boring, too easy. You don't trust it. You might even sabotage it because your nervous system was wired to equate love with longing, with striving, with never quite being enough. And that pattern, it's destroying your capacity for secure attachment. Sign number 4, you feel guilty when good things happen to you. This is the one most people miss. This is the sign that hides so well you might not even recognize it in yourself. Something good happens, you get unexpected money, you receive a genuine compliment, someone goes out of their way to help you, things are going well in your life. And instead of just enjoying it, instead of receiving it with gratitude and ease, you feel guilty, anxious, like you don't deserve it, like something bad must be coming to balance it out, like you need to minimize the good to prevent some imagined catastrophe. Or maybe it shows up differently. Maybe when good things happen to you, you immediately think of your mother. You feel guilty that you have what she didn't, that you're achieving what she couldn't, that you're happier than she was. You might even find yourself downplaying your success when you talk to her, making yourself smaller, emphasizing the struggles instead of the wins, because somewhere deep down, you learned that your happiness threatened her. This is the invisible sign, the one that operates so quietly you think it's just your personality. I'm just not good at receiving. I'm just modest. I just don't want to jinx it. But it's not any of those things. It's a wound. It comes from having a mother who couldn't hold space for your joy without making it about herself, who couldn't celebrate your success without feeling diminished by it, who taught you through 1,000 subtle reactions that your light somehow dimmed hers. So you learned to dim it yourself, preemptively, before she had to do it for you. And now you're so practiced at making yourself small that you do it automatically. You feel guilty for succeeding, for being happy, for having more than she had. You carry her limitations as if they're yours. Her ceiling becomes your ceiling, not because you're not capable, but because surpassing her feels like betrayal. Let that sink in for a moment. Feel where it lands in your body. Sign number 5, you're a perfectionist who never feels good enough. You set impossibly high standards for yourself. You work harder than anyone else. You push through exhaustion. You can't rest until everything is perfect. And even then, you see the flaws. People call you accomplished, high achieving, successful. But inside, you feel like a fraud running on a hamster wheel, terrified that if you stop, everyone will see that you were never actually good enough. Here's what's really happening. You're still trying to earn your mother's approval. You're still trying to be perfect enough, accomplished enough, impressive enough to finally get that unconditional love you needed as a child. Except it didn't work then, and it's not working now. Because the problem was never that you weren't good enough. The problem was that she couldn't give you what she didn't have herself. Her approval was always conditional because she was never taught that worth is inherent. So she passed that wound to you. And now you're trapped in this endless loop of achieving and emptiness, of success that never satisfies, of standards that keep rising no matter how much you accomplish. You think you're chasing excellence. You're actually chasing the fantasy that if you're just perfect enough, she'll finally see you. She'll finally be proud. She'll finally give you that thing you've been starving for your entire life. But perfection is a mirage, and you're dying of thirst chasing it. Sign number 6, you struggle with female friendships. Your relationship with women is complicated. Maybe you're intensely close with female friends, but then something shifts and suddenly they're the enemy. Maybe you keep female friends at arm's length, never fully trusting them. Maybe you compete with women without meaning to. Maybe you're constantly comparing yourself to them. Or maybe you're overly accommodating with female friends, constantly shape-shifting to be what they need, terrified of conflict or disapproval. This isn't about you being not like other girls or better with guys. This is about your first and most formative relationship with a woman being wounded. Your mother was supposed to model what healthy feminine connection looks like. She was supposed to show you that women can be safe, supportive, non-competitive, nurturing. But if she couldn't model that, if she competed with you, compared you to others, was threatened by other women, or couldn't sustain healthy friendships herself, then you didn't learn how to do it either. So now your relationships with women carry that original template. You're either reenacting the dynamic you had with her, or you're overcompensating, or you're avoiding deep connection entirely because it feels too risky. And the painful part? You probably blame yourself. You think there's something wrong with you, that you're not good at female friendship, that drama just seems to follow you. But it's not you. It's the wound. It's the unhealed pattern playing out over and over until you finally recognize it and choose differently. Call to action. Stop for just a second. If you're recognizing yourself in these signs, if something in your chest is getting tight, if you're starting to see the pattern you've been living inside of, I want you to do something. Leave a comment with one word: seen. Because that's what you needed as a child and didn't get, to be seen, really seen, not for what you could provide or how you performed, but for who you actually were. And maybe right now, in this moment, you're finally seeing yourself. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. We're going to keep exploring these wounds, these patterns, these things we inherited that were never ours to carry. You'll want to be here for what comes next. And tap that like button if this is speaking to something you've never been able to name before. It helps this reach other people who are carrying this same invisible wound. Now, let's keep going, because there are more signs and they get even more specific. Sign number 7. You can't receive help or care with discomfort. Someone offers to help you and your immediate response is, "No, I've got it." Not because you actually have it, because the idea of needing help, of being vulnerable, of receiving care, it makes your skin crawl. Someone does something nice for you, and instead of just saying thank you and receiving it, you immediately look for ways to repay them, to make the even score, to make sure you don't owe anyone anything. Someone sees you struggling and asks if you're okay, and you put on a smile and say, "I'm fine," even when you're drowning. This comes from a mother who couldn't meet your needs consistently. Maybe she was too overwhelmed. Maybe she resented your needs. Maybe she used your needs against you, gave you something, and then reminded you how much she sacrificed. Whatever the mechanism, you learned needing is dangerous. Depending on someone means getting hurt. The only safe way to exist is to be self-sufficient. So you built walls. You became fiercely independent. You learned to handle everything yourself. And you told yourself this was strength. But it's not strength. It's armor. And armor that's worn too long becomes a prison. You're not actually independent. You're isolated. You're not actually strong. You're exhausted. You're not actually self-sufficient. You're starving for connection, but too afraid to reach for it. Number 8, you feel responsible for other people's emotions. Someone is upset, and you immediately feel like you need to fix it, like their emotional state is somehow your responsibility. Someone is disappointed, and you scramble to make it better, even if their disappointment has nothing to do with you. Someone is angry, and you absorb it like a sponge, twisting yourself to ease their discomfort, even at the cost of your own. You walk into a room and immediately scan the emotional atmosphere. Who's off? Who needs something? Who might be upset? And you adjust yourself accordingly. This is called emotional enmeshment, and it comes from having a mother whose emotions you had to manage. Maybe she was emotionally volatile, and you became her regulator. Maybe she was depressed, and you became her cheerleader. Maybe she was anxious, and you became her reassurance. Maybe she made you her therapist, her confidant, her emotional support long before you were developmentally ready. You learned her emotions are my responsibility. If she's unhappy, it's my job to fix it. If she's unstable, I need to be stable enough for both of us. That's called parentification. You were the parent, she was the child, and that reversal damaged your developing sense of boundaries. Now, as an adult, You can't distinguish between empathy and responsibility. You feel other people's emotions as if they're your own. You compulsively try to manage everyone's comfort. You sacrifice your needs to regulate others. And you wonder why you're so exhausted all the time. Number 9, you struggle to know what you actually want. Someone asks you a simple question: what do you want to do? What would make you happy? What are your dreams? And your mind goes blank. Not because you don't have preferences, but because you've spent so long asking what do they want and what will make them happy that you've lost touch with your own internal compass. You can tell anyone what they need. You can read people brilliantly. You know exactly what to say, what to do, how to show up for others. But when it comes to yourself, nothing. Static. That question feels almost dangerous to consider. This comes from a mother who couldn't attune to you, who didn't ask what you wanted, who made assumptions, projected her needs onto you, or simply never made space for your preferences to matter. You learned that your wants were irrelevant, that love meant adapting to what others needed from you, that your role was to be flexible, accommodating, whatever shaped the situation required. So you got really good at being a chameleon, and you lost yourself in the process. Now you're living a life that looks fine from the outside, but feels hollow on the inside, because you don't know if any of it is actually what you want, or if it's all just what you thought you were supposed to want. Number 10. You have a critical inner voice that sounds like her. You make a mistake, a small one, the kind everyone makes, and immediately that voice starts. How could you be so stupid? Everyone's going to think you're incompetent. You always mess things up. Why can't you just get it right? That voice, it's harsh, it's relentless, it never gives you a break. And if you really listen to it, if you really pay attention to the tone and the words, it sounds a lot like your mother. Maybe not her exact words, but her energy, her disappointment, her criticism. You've internalized her voice so completely that you don't even need her to criticize you anymore. You do it to yourself, constantly, preemptively. This is how the mother wound perpetuates itself. She's not even in the room, but she's running the show from inside your head. And the cruelest part, you think this voice is helping you. You think it's motivating you, keeping you sharp, preventing mistakes. You've rebranded it as high standards or being realistic, but it's not helping. It's destroying you from the inside out. That voice is why you can't celebrate wins, why you're never good enough, why you're exhausted from trying to be perfect, why you're trapped in patterns of self-sabotage. That voice needs to be questioned, challenged, eventually replaced with something kinder. But first, you need to recognize it for what it is, her wound, not your truth. Number 11. You feel different around her. You're an adult, you're capable, you're intelligent, you've built a life. But then you spend time with your mother and suddenly you're 12 again. You regress, you get defensive, you feel small, you find yourself seeking her approval over things that don't even matter. You notice yourself performing, people-pleasing, or shutting down completely. You leave interactions with her feeling drained, confused, or vaguely bad about yourself, even if nothing explicitly negative happened. This is because unhealed wounds get activated in proximity to their source. Your nervous system remembers, your body remembers, even if your conscious mind is telling you, "I'm over it," or "it wasn't that bad," your system knows differently. And here's what makes this particularly confusing. She might have changed. She might be nicer now, more mellow, less overtly critical. but your nervous system is responding to the accumulated history, not just the present moment. This doesn't mean you have to cut contact, though for some people that's the healthiest choice. It means you need to recognize what's happening and develop strategies to stay grounded in who you actually are, rather than who you become in her presence. Sign number 12. You're waiting for her to change. Deep down, despite everything, despite the pain and the patterns and the disappointment, you're still waiting for her to finally see you, to finally apologize, to finally acknowledge what happened, to finally become the mother you needed. You're waiting for that conversation where she says, "I'm sorry. I see now how I hurt you. I didn't know how to be what you needed." And until that happens, you're stuck in hoping, stuck in trying to fix the relationship, stuck in cycles of trying harder, pulling away, trying again. This waiting is keeping you prisoner, because the truth most people don't want to face is she might never change. She might never give you what you're waiting for. She might not even understand that there's something to apologize for. Not because she's evil, but because she's operating from her own unhealed wounds, because she's defended against her own pain for so long that acknowledging yours would crack her foundation. And waiting for her to change so you can heal, that gives her power over your healing, that makes your freedom contingent on her growth. Your healing has to begin with you, without her permission, without her acknowledgement, without her changing first. That's not fair. It's not right, but it's reality. What this all means. If you're recognizing multiple signs in yourself, take a breath. This is a lot. This might be bringing up feelings you've kept buried for years. You might be feeling angry at her, at yourself for not seeing it sooner, at me for pointing it out. You might be feeling sad, grieving the mother you needed but didn't have, grieving the childhood you deserved but didn't get. You might be feeling scared. If I acknowledge this, what does it mean? What do I do with this information? How do I move forward? All of those feelings are valid. All of them make sense. Here's what I need you to understand. Recognizing the mother wound isn't about blame. It's not about demonizing your mother or dwelling in victimhood. It's about understanding. It's about seeing the patterns clearly so you can finally interrupt them. It's about recognizing that what happened to you was real, even if it was subtle, even if your mother didn't mean it, even if you can't point to one dramatic event. The mother wound is real. It's documented. It's studied. It's not something you're making up or exaggerating. And more importantly, it's healable. Not easily, not quickly, not in a way that erases the past, but healable in the sense that you don't have to keep living inside these patterns. You don't have to keep passing this wound to the next generation. You can be the one who breaks the cycle. So what now? You've recognized the signs. You've seen yourself in this list. Now what? First, stop minimizing. Stop telling yourself it wasn't that bad. Stop comparing your pain to others and deciding yours doesn't count. Your pain counts. Your experience matters. The wound is real even if it's invisible. Second, find your people. This healing doesn't happen in isolation. Find a therapist who understands mother wounds and attachment trauma. Find communities of people who are doing this work. Find the people who get it. You've spent enough time feeling alone in this. You don't have to anymore. Third, start the grief work. You need to grieve. not just for what you didn't get from her, but for all the ways the wound has shaped your life, for the relationships it damaged, for the years you spent trying to be perfect enough, for the version of yourself you buried to stay safe. Grief is not weakness, it's necessary, and on the other side of it, there's something new waiting. Fourth, begin reparenting yourself. Learn to give yourself what she couldn't give you. Learn to validate your emotions, to celebrate your wins, to hold yourself with compassion when you fall short. You can become the mother to yourself that you never had, and that might be the most powerful healing available to you. Fifth, set boundaries with her and with everyone else in your life. Boundaries aren't about punishment, they're about protection. They're about creating space for your authentic self to exist and breathe. Some people won't like your boundaries. That's okay. That's information. That's how you'll know who was in relationship with your authentic self and who was just benefiting from your wound. Finally, understand this. Healing the mother wound doesn't mean you have to hate your mother. You can hold complexity. You can acknowledge that she did her best with what she had and recognize that her best wasn't enough for what you needed. You can have compassion for her wounds and prioritize healing your own. You can love her from a distance. You can accept her limitations while refusing to let them continue limiting you. There's no one right way to do this. Some people maintain relationships with their mothers while doing this work. Some people need distance or no contact. Some people wait until their mother dies and then do the healing. Whatever you choose, make sure it's actually your choice, not guilt, not obligation, not what you think you should do, but what you actually need to heal. You didn't ask for this wound. You didn't cause it. You were just a child who needed a mother who could see you, hold you, love you without conditions. And you didn't get that, not fully, not in the way you needed. That's not your fault, but healing it is your responsibility. Not because that's fair, but because you're the only one who can do it. You're the only one who can free yourself from patterns that were never yours to begin with. And I know it's exhausting. I know you're tired. I know you've already carried so much, but you don't have to carry it alone anymore, and you don't have to carry it forever. The mother wound is real, but so is healing. So is breaking cycles. So is becoming the person you were always meant to be before the wound shaped you. That person is still in there, waiting. They've always been waiting. It's time to let them out. Final call to action. If this resonated with you, drop that word again, seen. Let it be your acknowledgement. Let it be your commitment to stop hiding from this. Let it be the beginning of something different. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's been carrying this wound without recognizing it, someone who deserves to know they're not alone. And make sure you're subscribed. We're building a community of people who are done inheriting wounds that were never theirs. People who are brave enough to see the patterns and committed enough to break them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being willing to look at the thing you've maybe been avoiding your whole life. You are seen. You matter. Your wound is real. And your healing, it's possible.